Welcome to the Terra Confluence 2024, the Terra Torrents Dialogue Series. It is an initiative from Global Climate Association to mark Earth Day this year. Today, we welcome Saymanti Bandyopadhyay to our series. As a distinguished speaker in the Terra Torrent Dialogue, she has been honored as Environmental Educators 30 Under 30 in the year 2017 by the North American Association for Environmental Education. Shivamdi stands as a testament to the power of youth and innovation in environmental conservation. With over 8 years of rich experience in conservation action, Shivamdi has led significant projects, including the acclaimed Whale Shark Conservation Project, and has been instrumental in the success of Gaj UTSA across multiple states while working as an assistant manager in Wildlife Trust of India. Her role as an education officer at Sundarban and former naturalist at Tadoba has not only educated but also inspired many towards a path of environmental mindfulness. Her approach intertwining ecology with conservation to secure the support of local communities for sustainable policy change embodies the essence of empowerment in climate action. We are thrilled to have Shemoti with us today to share her valuable insights and to celebrate her remarkable achievements in wildlife conservation and environmental education. Thank you so much, Shemoti, for having this conversation with us today. And with that, I would like you to start with our few of the questions that we have for you.
Thank you so much for calling me. And one thing I really like to tell, it's amazing to hear my actual name, how I was named. It's very rarely that someone calls me with the same pronunciation that I have grown up. It's an honor. It's completely collaboration that can, keep on our sustainable effort going forward. So I'm very, very honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Shemonti. And to our viewers who are not aware of this globally, Shemonti and me, we share our same native tongue, that is Bangla, which is commonly spoken in eastern part of India. And to move forward, to our first question, which is something about conservation campaigns and climate change. So, how do your conservation campaign with the Wildlife Trust of India or in other organizations that you have been a part of address the impact of climate change on wildlife, and what strategies have proven most effective? Could you share some thoughts on that?
Yes. So, climate change is something which has been predominant for quite a long time. However, it has been so on the face for the recent few years that we cannot talk about that. Probably it's happening, maybe it's happening. Now, all we have to do is gear up and try to figure out how we can build up capacity or resilience. So the work that I do is more or less connecting the conservation effort with the community. So I work on the outreach part of it. Obviously, the conservation or the ecology part deals with how to do the research, come up with the data, and then come up with the plans. But what do you do when you are working from one global point, let's say Delhi, but then the effects are more prominent on coastal areas or those point areas like central India or let's say Kerala or Gujarat even, Assam, anywhere. So as a headquarter organization or as an organization working from the capital, you can't just go in and say, "Ki, these are the things that we think the state deserves or the state needs to build up their resilience." So that's where my role comes in. So how we work is parallel to the research data that we have and the plan that we come up. I work with the community trust building. So we do the data research and monitoring and how to protect the habitat that was ideally could sustain that perfect area for all this time. And then I do connect that part with the community engagement and the trust building. From there onward, it doesn't only stay as our work or WTI's work, comes as the communities work, as the localities work, as the states work. So it's amalgamation of the effort and the background study with conservation action that can make a difference.
Thank you for sharing that information. And that means that a policy at a higher level will not work. We have to go with the bottoms up approach where we look into the matters of the locals are having at hand and then create some sort of strategies while taking information from their level and not bring it from the top. So that was very interesting to know how you actually work on that field. Now, moving on towards the next question. This is something about local community mobilization. So, could you share some examples of how engaging local communities has led to positive climate action or maybe conservation outcomes? It could be in terms of ecological restoration, also, not just for climate.
The one very prominent example that is coming to my mind is the Gujarat Whale Shark project that I've been working for a while now. The project started much before, probably when we were in school. It was around early 90s where the landing of whale sharks were recorded. So whale sharks are like the massive fish. They are the world's largest fish. How we tell the kids is like, you have seen those Mars container that goes, it's as big as that. So there have been landing datas across Gujarat coasts, and they were just being hunted. Targeted hunting was going on, and there was no economic benefit as per se. They used to would like drag the take the fat, the blubber, and they used to turn it into a liquid and used to coat their ships as a waterproof medium. So it's not really a tangible economic benefit. However, they were being killed. So in 2001 and subsequently in 2004, the whale shark, along with India's and WTI's effort, got under the Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act. And in 2004, it was India's lobbying became made it as a CITES protected species. However, how we were talking in the last thing also, policy does have a benefit. It does give you the ambit of safety. But what about the local people? They don't know that overnight or over a period of time, it has become a scheduled animal. So that's when our campaign in 2004 started with dealing with the community, telling them what they are doing and how they can help. Murari Babu is one of the, back at that time, we used to call influencers, which now we all know who they are. But so Murari Babu gave a very nice example of, how our daughters, when they are pregnant, they come home for protection and safekeeping. Somehow that resonated. Over the period of what, last 20 years, those hunters, or let's just, for the sake of conversation, those fishers who had hunted at point of time became the protector of the species. They started cutting the net, they started releasing the fish. And as I stand right now, we have released 944 whale shark by the end of this March. And not only this, the first time WTI could tag a whale shark was from the Gujarat coast, which gave us an immense, insight that the whale shark travels from here to the Somalia coast. It's like such a vast migration. So, communities can, obviously, they are the custodian of that particular habitat. And as we are, it's like their home. So without them, we are nothing. We are just theoretical learners, probably.
There were two very interesting things that you said that sort of struck me. One was that due to a work by WTI, Wildlife Trust of India, the whale shark was included in Forest Conservation Act. That was one point. Another was that the story of that Murari Babu that you said, that because he attached sort of a sentimental issue with the coming home of the whales to the coast. So that's made a change in the outcome of what was happening. So there are two ways. The organization had a big role in shaping the policy of the, which is like a more broader context. It is something done on a levels of higher expertise per se, or policy makers. And second was the community had a very, very active participation in giving it the positive impact that it has now. So, do you think that if there are more organizations like this involved, because an organization causing the change of the, means the, for the protection of the whale to be included in Schedule 1 is the very big positive step that we had. Do you have something to say about that?
Certainly, yes. More the people work in these fields, more help or more support will be garnered. That is true. However, the point is, it does change with the species we are talking about. If it's a conflict-prone species, then it gets a little more difficult to change the sentiment of the people and period of time as such. As we all know, things can't be, just rushed. So perception change takes time, emotional acceptance take time, and we usually have that very turning our blind eye also, right? It's a very normal way of dealing with it. We don't address the biggest problem, that is the shrinking of space.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
so that is one of the biggest thing that we have at the utmost capacity. Probably the threshold is just dwindling right now. So, I mean, yes, more the merrier, certainly. Every way is possible.
I say I am going a little bit off topic because I want to bring in another example of something that is happening currently in Bihar, India. So, Bihar has had a lot of wetland areas in and around in central, like in the areas near Gaya, Bodh Gaya, also in the northern part of Bihar, which is now being those wetlands or those areas of ponds where these waterfowls and also a lot of migratory birds coming in during winters are being closed off to build more roads and to, as you say, the space, there is a space crunch. So they are doing that. Also, there's something else that the government is doing is putting up solar panels on the top of wetlands or maybe on top of fields where those migratory birds used to come and settle. So we as citizens, or we with some organization, is there something we can do to address this? Because when this was told to me by a professor in IIM Bodh Gaya, that there was an area where these fowl used to perch in on a, like there was a wetland nearby, just on the side of the road, and then the construction happened, which has to happen. You need development also, and then they were seen, they had nowhere to go. They started walking on the highways, and then they went somewhere. Some of them died during there were accidents and such. So, what can a person who is not in a, means like say in this field, can, how can they raise their voice or on these issues? To means what would be the correct agency to reach out to for that sort of information?
So, see, there are always development will happen considering we all like to, progress. Every human likes to progress, so the humanity will also progress. But the thing is, sustainable development is something which will be better for the next generations to come. So, probably one way to look forward is what are the mitigation techniques that adopt in certain scenarios like this. Maybe reach out to the forest department and figure it out if these transformation of wetlands can be some way incorporated with elevated land, or some way if we can incorporate both the habitats
Hmm.
as well as the development. Probably that's a ideal way to go forward. The State Forest Department is the nodal agency who are proactive with these, along with the civic bodies. That's how the work ideally could can happen. IAM educational organizations can also help us with the data so that we can come up with a proper plan. And then once we have the plan, we can pitch it to the stakeholders who are working for the development. And then I'm sure they will love to incorporate, because everyone is very proud of their resources, be it biological or be it developmental. So if we can put that way, that even in a place like Bihar, Bengal, where there is so much of human increase, number, population, if we can have wetlands patches, that helps to reduce temperature, pollution, everything. So maybe again, it's a multi-pronged approach, can always help, backed by data, certainly.
Thank you for sharing that information. This might come in useful in for us in the future. Now, moving towards the text part of the questions. So, you have been an environmental educator as well. So, what role does education play in your conservation effort, and how do you design educational programs to foster long-term environmental stewardship? Like it should not be, come, we do something and then we plant the trees and we forget it about it the next day.
Uh, so how WTI, how here we plan this campaigns are always with a baseline. As I stated before also, there has to be a plan backed by data. So the baseline always gives you an formative research. Where do we stand with knowledge? And from there, we build our campaign ideas. So, see, education is everywhere, right? I am learning from you, you are learning from me. So, education lets us understand a topic and maybe transform that understanding into a change, into a active change, which can only help us in progressing in life, right? So once we understand where the stakeholders are aligned, their level of knowledge, awareness, and perception, from there we start building the ideologies of how to base our campaign. So, if we are trying to change a perception of, let's say, fishers, how we are doing in Gujarat, so our primary stakeholder will be fishers. And we can't just go, as you stated, we can't just take the children, because active change is not going to be tangible. These kids, when they become adults and become a fisher, then only change will come. So, in such a scenario, we have to include the active fishers who are going fishing every day, plus the retired ones, because those are old wise men. And
Hmm.
in every community, those men actually have the biggest say, plus the younger generation, because we want it to be sustainable, so that when they become old, or they come of age, they can change their practice pattern. The same with my other campaigns also. Let's say the white-winged duck, which is available in a very pocket population in Assam and Arunachal. There, our primary stakeholder is community, certainly, because this bird is only available around the fringe areas and the national parks. But see, this community are not the one harming the birds. But then they are so much in less number. The community being proactive also can't change anything. Now it has to be a do and die level by all participants, all stakeholders. So hence we try incorporating the naturalist also, because since this bird is only available in these two pockets, there are global influence of ornithologists, bird watchers who come to see it. So if there is certain amount of sustainable economic benefit to the naturalist, they will also be equally custodian, equally, they will have that onus towards this conservation action. So, education is not, when I talk about education, I don't only mean a formal education of 10 plus 2
Sure.
college. Education can be just learnings. So, we have various ways of learning. We do have applications also, which we develop based on what we are doing. For the whale shark, since it's not very easily seen or tracked. We have a life-size model of huge inflatable, which when it enters anywhere, because of its mere size, it looks very daunting. So even tools like this can have an awe-inspiring effect on people, which let them connect with the topic. Plus acknowledgement when there is, or let's say when I say acknowledgement, I talk about publicizing best case practices that can be as small as a panchayat helping a small frog sustain in a nala, in a small water, stagnant water. See, there have to be ideas of how you can stop pollution and everything from there. However, incorporation of certain best case practices also helps others to, join the mission. So yeah, so I think it depends on what problem are we addressing and where we are going. And obviously languages are most important thing, as we started our talk by that because it felt so nice to hear my name with my actual pronunciation. So we always develop collaterals. When I say collateral, that could be comic book, that could be videos, but we always develop this in the language as well as English, Hindi, because if there are migrant workers, they will also connect with it.
The vernacular has a lot to play in creating a
Acceptance of,
relation between the information and the informant, because only then they can be close to it, even though they are of the same place and they have been habituated looking at that. Also, another important thing you told about education is that education is not just formal education, but something within the community where the information is passed down through generation. What we learn, like we as a, probably if you go as a someone from WTI working as a strategist. So you can learn from them and they can learn from you as well when you incorporate that into your strategy. So that was a lovely way that you said that. Thank you for making it so clear. Then, if I could move on to the other parts of our conversation today. So, about Wildlife Trust of India, I would like to ask, how does the Wildlife Trust of India integrate climate advocacy into its conservation projects, if they do it at all? I mean, like, is there any certain way they have been looking to integrate?
Hmm, how do I put it? Okay. The best way to do it is probably in one liner, if you have to do it, it's probably the multi-pronged approach that we have most of the cases. That includes having a constructive baseline. Then based on that survey, then we have the plans and obviously information from the field and through various collaboration with civic bodies or government agencies who are working there. Right. So we through the surveys we have let's say research documentation. Policy advocacies is because, as we were talking initially, most of the things doesn't work out if we form one up top down or bottoms up approach. It kind of have to go together. It's a synergy between both so that the confluence is somewhere in the middle. So policy advocacy is something where the change is made, at least on paper, but again, when you are doing the capacity building of, let's not say capacity building because capacity strengthening, everyone has some capacity in themselves. What we are trying to do is strengthening that capacity that they have. And we do everything alone. So WTI is present all over in like 23 states, working through like 50 projects, but we still can't be everywhere. So we work through collaboration. There probably are stronger civic bodies working in places, government agencies, nodal points, more the merrier, as we always say, and obviously community mobilization with trust building and the education plan, and by demonstrating the change on field. So probably after 20, 25 years of working pan India, we can say that we do have demonstrable, tangible result that we have made a change. And obviously, there has to be the project management, evaluation, and monitoring and streamlining. Once in a while, you always have to incorporate the changes that's needed, may it be political, sometimes the actual problems, the threats cannot be negotiable, then you update your plans. So I mean, it's a multi-pronged approach, as I said.
I asked this because thank you for explaining that, because my next question was also somewhat a part of it. Climate change or something, when maybe the inception of your organization happened, it was not something people discussed, knew about. It was environmental conservation, environmental pollution was those hot topics then, when we were in our own childhoods, if you would say. Now, when you make a any sort of a strategy for any purpose, it could be something very simple as a road construction as well, to something as difficult as a whale conservation project strategy. So, in all cases, you might have to include the factor of the climate, whether it's weighing in or not. So, I think you were right in saying that we have to have those multi-pronged approach and include agencies, including the meteorological bodies for information, perhaps, and also those other bodies that are working on climate change action plans and such. Because I think I had one question about that to you as well. That whether over the if you I don't know if you have noticed the projects that you have had in your organization over the year. So whether there has been a shift in strategy making to include the perspectives of climate in the recent times more than before. And will that, do you think, will that inclusion of climate change and its aspect will increase as the time goes?
Uh, I think what we talk about climate change right now uh, has always been, at least in our field, if you look at it, it has always had that effect. We can probably explicitly mention right now, but we always had these indicator species. Uh, if you look, how do you mitigate climate change effects? The way is to reduce down the consumption of your resources and simple life, traditional lifestyle. That has always kind of been in our concept of conservation, ecology.
True.
So once when you go to save a habitat, let's say for white-winged wood duck, it's white-winged duck, it's the habitat that is killing the birds. Whale shark, it's the species that's getting affected by accidental entanglement, pollution. Let's say the frog, the Munar amphibian that I'm working on, the frogs are barely getting their habitat, so they are so small, they are just becoming gone very soon. So all this, if you look at the threats, what's causing their, degradation, it's all the reasons that we need to, address climate change. So
True.
even when we are not explicitly saying it's a climate change thing, but all this species that we work in, that is like WTI's mission and vision to save the wildlife of India. These are all indicator species of their own habitat. So even if we are not talking about explicitly climate change effect, we are actually fighting that for a very, very long time. So yeah, I mean, they are all indicators of that habitat if you look at it, all the species.
That is true. And also because in previous years, per se, the threats might have been contained to the forest being cut down, so them losing their habitats. Now that it is hotter, there's a more chances of wildfire. Maybe the swamps where the maybe the frogs existed, those are drying up. So these are added threats, so making the work of conservationist all the more difficult to, uh, successfully complete. So there's that. So that is why my question was that whether you have to include more means like more thought to the what can be the effects of climate change on these species, as well as the other problems that already existed of loss of habitat, then maybe some sort of anthropogenic effects or hunting and say. Mm. And yeah, so again, then I would like to move on to our next question, which was, how do you blend ecological concepts, which are more in the theoretical nature, to the conservation practices that you have? Conservation practices and strategies to create effective action and for the wildlife protection. Do you go through theoretical ecological concepts and literature in your organization to make a strategy, or you look into the main crux of the problem and go from there?
Okay, so we do have methodologies for every campaign or for every project. We have scientifically literature supported methodologies that have to be drafted, strategies and methodologies. Based on that, obviously, it depends on what we are trying to achieve. First, let's just go with what is our goal this year. Once we know we want to save this species from these threats, once we know the threat, we do the threat analysis, we do the stakeholder analysis, and we know where we stand, and we have the formative research. Then we have the threats, stakeholder, and where is our first formative baseline. From there onwards, we know how to go ahead for the next 3 years, 4 years. So once we have that, then we start building on, we start researching on what others have done it. What say there are so many types of campaign. There are pride campaigns. There are conservation campaigns. There are so many different things that has worked on educational campaigns. Also, obviously, there are political advocacy campaigns as well. So, which has worked on what stakeholders. Now you have to understand there is nothing ready-made as per se. Ours is a very niche work. It has to be a confluence of probably all the campaigns that has ever been there, and you bring together because depending on what your stakeholders are. Once you have that, then you know your goal, which is probably going to happen in 25 years. Then you break it down in smaller sets, maybe 5 years, maybe 3 years, and then put metrics, how indicators, how do you know that you have achieved this goal that you wanted to do in 3 years, and if you have not achieved, what are the risk assessment. So we have the entire theory initially before we start anything, and then we have the third party assessment as well, because I will be biased towards my field, towards my people, towards my work. So it has to be the third party doing the baseline as well as mid campaign survey as well as the post campaign survey. So through all this we have a proper and obviously we have our internal team assessing the progress of the project. It is usually the principal investigators and the chief of conservation, chief of ecology, and the ED, obviously.
That is a very interesting way that you put it. I have one question that is coming to my mind again. So there are so much to look into because there's whales, then there are, I don't know, leopards, and there is something happening to the birds and frogs, and which is like everything needs your attention. This is again something going tangent maybe to the exact conversation that we planned on having, but what is the means like criteria? How do you choose? Like, does who chooses, or what is the criteria to focus on a certain project? We need to do something about it right now. This might not be just for your organization. In general, I'm talking how conservation strategies would work.
So I will talk about first my organization and then probably in general. So our organization has been working for last 25 years for almost 23 states, 47 to 50 projects. So over the period, what we do is we have 9 big ideas. So when I say big ideas, those are like, let's say, division types. Okay. So one of the big ideas deals with environment urgencies or like emergency situations. So whatever is urgent, need of the hour. So that division consistently looks at it, be it financial support, be it human support or vet support, whatever they need to do, they will give it. When I talk about this emergency situation, let's say there have been oil spill in some areas, or there have been birds suddenly dying over a wetland. This are that team. Apart from that, this team also look after whatever is the smaller project for a smaller time span. If you need to do something, let's say monitoring of fishing cat in Bengal, or let's say to assess if there are how many small cats are there in one forest, then these are the division. Then we have which wild rescue means they deal with animals that have been straying or being captured by others. So there are certain captures by human for whatever trade, or maybe have been removed from the forest, whatever they deal with. So there are secluded divisions who deal with separate themes, and they work more or less as we have learned in this organization that conservation never sleeps. So
True.
there's not really a lot of weekends or office hour as per se. Everyone is here for passionate reasons. The other way is to probably, since we have studied this subject, there is something beyond passion, and there is a blend of passion and reality, which probably is a better way to look at it. So even if there are 100 things happening in this world or in this country, we have to figure out a risk assessment. What are the threats? What can be changed? And probably, using some metric system, maybe 0 and 1, to see what can be practically possible.
True. That
And
makes sense.
then probably investing our time, our resources. And obviously, when you're doing a risk assessment, you understand if it's just a team of 5 people. And if that is the problem, that 5 people are too less to do the work, then there is always ways of collaborating with others. But if there is like something that you can't change, let's say population increasing is one of the anthropogenic pressure on that population or the species, then I don't think that can be negated at this point of time at all. So I mean, there's a practical way of doing it, and probably we should, at this point, look at it.
That is very realistic way of putting it, and also very interesting to understand that one thing is that you can never be at peace because something or the other will try to grab your attention. And the best way to follow that is like where should we go towards is that the problem that can be solved, that where you can be a contributor. It should not be somewhere you are struggling for a long time and then there are other places where you could have made a difference and you did not go there. So thank you for sharing that. That was something I had been wondering, not in just case for conservation, but also for in case of rescue operations and other, like, animal or, wildlife rescues. How do they manage to, keep in a path? Because otherwise it's very difficult as a person, if you are really passionate about it, to be very less means like less emotional and more, practical way to do be that.
And I'd like to add another thing. Since I have been working in this field for a very, very long time, one thing that have always helped personally is to have my own connection with probably people or civic bodies. Let's say it's a rescue of domestic animal in which we don't provide, then I still have people who have been doing that, maybe here, maybe in Ahmedabad, maybe in other places also, where at least I can put two people together so that they can help each other. It may not be me or may not be my organization, but yes. So that that openness of asking for help and to building a database of people who can really address those problems also kind of gives you peace that at least I've done something. So probably that can help.
Yeah, that is actually the correct thing that you said, that we need to build our network so that we have people collaborating with us for other things that we are not capable of. This question was particularly directed at things such as, like how leopards will come into communities and they are shot, and this is happening all over the northern and middle of central India. So that was something I was wondering, that how people do that. So, after that, I would like to ask you, uh, there was a project that you were working on, that is Gaj Utsav. So, could you elaborate on the Gaj Utsav initiative in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Odisha, and how it contributes to an elephant conservation in today's context?
Okay, so Gajotsav was very close to my heart, one of the campaigns that I've been running for a while. In 2018, Gajotsav started. So the idea of Gajotsav was built on taking Gaja to the Praja. So it started with in Delhi, and then we have spread across quite a bit of elephant range states. So last year we launched in Kerala, and I think everyone knows how Kerala and elephant conflicts are one of the prime thing. Not only Kerala, there are a few other states as well. So when we started this Gajotsav, it was launched parallel to the Binale. Binale is an art festival that happens once in 2 years, and it is a celebration of art, colors, and everything. So the idea of our Gajotsav was a month-long campaign that happened in the cultural capital of Kochi. In Fort Kochi, right before Binale, 15 days prior to Binale, this campaign was launched where live artists was creating elephant art pieces out of maybe wood, maybe fiberglasses and paintings. And there was a Guinness World Record holder, the Chichi, a sister, who could do mehendi, or what they call it melanji in the Kochi area. She will do elephant motifs all over the hands, and somehow it turned like people into not talking about how any negative adjective about the elephants, but just take a respite and talk about how it's a heritage animal, how it was always, you know, stuck to the cultural part of Kerala also. So during our exams, we also get very, very annoyed about studies and all. Probably we don't hate the subject. We just don't like the pressure it has been causing on us. It was very simple like that. A month later, when the campaign or the 1 month long campaign just got over, we had a huge media response, which was more or less on a very, very positive, to a certain extent, neutral to positive, not negative about elephants. That was one of the big things Gajotsav could do in Kerala. Tamil Nadu, we launched with the Tamil Nadu government, and it crossed the corridors of the Tamil Nadu state. The campaign moved from Coimbatore to Nilgiris to Pollachi to Hosur to Virudhunagar. And this year we'll be having the big bang in Chennai. And this campaign, since it's a campaign that we are looking forward to a big achievement, right? It's a giving the rite of passage to an Asian elephant is not going to be an easy thing. It will make one step of a progress and maybe 5 steps back we have to go. Odisha also we launched last year, and last week only we had another linear infrastructure consultation meeting with the forest department, and more or less all the representative of the linear infrastructure agencies were present there. So it's one of the campaign that have been ideated over the years with all the relevant data, risk have been assessed. However, it has been so customized, their threats and the problems or the winnings have been so very customized per state. It's a learning every day, every month. Uh, it it is a struggle, but it is beautiful when there is even a single time we win smaller wins. We have not won a bigger win. However, states have been showing amazing support. Tamil Nadu, a lot. Odisha is also trying immensely. This year, we are planning on increasing to another 4 state that will make it up to 7 state. And in 2025, we will be having another Gaj Mahotsav, which is in Delhi, where it's a 4 day of events where we bring together whatever we have done in the states. And it's not only a celebration, but also a consultative meeting, and also for the states to showcase what they have done in elephant conservation.
It was extremely heartening to hear that about, especially the conflicts that we have been having related to elephants, and it goes through media. I mean, like it happens every other day. We listen something and it breaks our heart, and then that you're trying to do something positive. And for our audiences, I would like to say that Gajotsav is Gaj is in Sanskrit, Gaj is the elephant, and Utsav means festival. So Gajotsav is the celebration of Gaj, that is the elephant, and also Gaja to Praja means citizens. So the organizations that you have been working with are trying to bring the elephants to the citizens and making a connection, a cultural connection, which incidentally it already exists because Ganesh, the Hindus revered god of to whom we pray the first in the start of any event or any puja, the first god we pray is Ganesh already. So we already have that cultural connection, but there's there needs to be an extra boost to that. Maybe the Binale festival that you think of activism and like a struggle between activists and the locals, but sort of a celebration. So it was really, I was really happy to hear that. And now moving on, I'll skip a few, and the last couple of questions I would like to ask is, what metrics or indicators do you use to measure the impact of your conservation initiatives on local systems, and maybe not maybe climate resilience per se, but on local ecosystem, considering the examples that you already gave about the ducks, about Gajotsav and the sharks. Is there any metrics to say that yes, we have been winner in this case, or maybe we fell short in this?
Yes, so there are obviously there are bigger metrics and there are smaller indicators which helps us easily streamline the progress. So for whale shark, it is very simple. There can't be a single whale shark being killed in accidental entanglement. Obviously, there can be natural deaths that we can't just take it upon ourselves, but there can't be any whale shark that got trapped and that died. Uh, those are the easy tangibles. Now, you mentioned a very good thing about media. Media is one of the pillars of democracy, and they do have a huge influence on people as well as on any issues. So, media is one of our metrics, at least for campaigns, which has certain kind of a impact or of policy or community mobilization. There, how a media is reacting, how the media is portraying the conservation species or the conservation issues, that is also monitored. Plus, there are the certain simpler reaches, which are the number of people that we have trained, number of people that, let's say, if there is a naturalist that we are working and we can provide a little bit of a, economic benefit, then we consider how many naturalists have joined the force, or how many naturalists have gone into complete only bird watching, nothing else. So certain metrics are always there. Obviously, without a metric system, how we cannot monitor or evaluate or streamline change also. But certainly it depends on what conservation efforts we are working in. And certainly all this is not only a campaign. There will always be surveys to support perception change, and that those will also have metric systems as well.
Thank you. So, like you said, that there was like 944 whale sharks were till this day rescued, or and that that is like a big statistic to give you some boost. If not anything else, it is not just numbers to show someone, but even each person who's working close to that project will have that in their mind always, that we have done made even a difference made to one life matters for conservationists and in general anyone, so they'll remember that. So that is something to think about. Then last two questions I have for you. The second last one is, um, have your campaigns have any impact on policies changes? And if they did, what policies have been most impactful in supporting these sustainable environmental practices?
I don't think policy change can't I can't take a single credit of any of the policies. It takes years and years and probably multiple people working together for the same thing. However, there have been projects which, because of the collaborative ways, could achieve various results. There have been overbridges being made by Tamil Nadu government, which probably was the government equally as well. There have been obviously the whale shark under the have gone under Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1. Have been announced as a CITES species. There have been so many things, but I don't think that was much before I started working. But yes, that is the 100% WTI's work. And policy changes are quite, it has to be a sustainable as well. It has to stick. So it takes time.
True, but to the about the last part of the question, I would like to add something to that. That within your time frame that you have been working with, not just this organization, maybe others as well, have you seen the concept of sustainability or the policies working more towards, giving a more positive push towards the right direction for the campaigns that you have been working for? Because from the initial point, has there been some changes, may not be done by you, but overall, which has supported your work in conservation practices?
I'll actually say over the last 5 years, if you look at it, most of the governments, state governments, are immensely considering their sustainable approaches. If you look at it, there have been development, and no one wants the development to stop, not even you, not even me, not even the entire world. However, there have been restrictions. For example, a speed limit for the train to travel between the corridors or between the habitat of the elephant or the tiger. There have been highways and overbridges which have been made compulsory. If there's a highway, you have to do a underpass, overpass. Look at it, the entire Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, there have been so many overpasses being used. If you look at it, Chilla Motichur, there have been underpasses being constructed. So I think land securement is not really a black and white thing at all. Uh, it doesn't come under any kind of a protection act, but there have been states which are incorporating so that the corridors can be saved. There have been government investing money to figure out how many corridors are there. Are they actually splitting? Are they actually becoming higher, more, less? I mean, more research is going on that gives you an idea that people are actually being, conscious about this change. Uh, we have been very proud about what we have. Let's say tiger, leopard, elephants, for everything. People are getting more resilient towards uh, elephant straying or animal straying, any of the, let's not just name one species. But I mean, they're trying. We can't just see a change. I mean, shedding 5 kilos weight is not that easy. So how can we think about letting go of conflict scenarios? So, everything comes over a period of time. So if we think about whether the government is being proactive, I will say certainly they are.
So, yes, so because I say this because I find this in our different fields of even climate policies that was quite recently in this month itself, India declared that the Supreme Court of India has declared right to freedom from adverse impacts of climate change. Maybe it's pertaining only to the human population, but that is a step in the right direction. So I think we are moving maybe slowly but surely to somewhere we can have a synergy between development and natural ecological restoration, say. So, and then to move on towards the last question for you, how do you envision the future of educational outreach in mobilizing youth and communities for conservation practices, climate action, and general for environment? I ask this because I am more of a researcher and educator than on-field person. So, is there anything in the future that we can look forward to, or maybe you can suggest something that we do to make this a better
Uh,
transition?
yeah. So I don't know, probably it's a big thing, but in my head, when probably the day we can stop teaching that, there is something called environment education, then probably it's a step forward that it is as important as education. uh, it's nothing a separate subject. It's everything that we have learned just to uh, have a sustainable. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice. It's the moment that we understand that this choice is not thrown on us or made it compulsory on us, but it's a choice that we can take. Then probably we have achieved something. But if if we are talking about what as an environment educator I envision, then probably, as I have told you before, which I've learned from my very, very practical experience, every plan that we do has to be very conservation action oriented. What is my goal and whether I can achieve it or not. Like the time of theory is gone a little. Now we make a change which will give us result, which will show a difference. And not everywhere we can be present. We can't be omnipresent. We have to have collaborations. We have to have, all 10 of us or like 100 of us or 10,000 of us working together in one place, one time. Just, keep on doing it. What we think can make a difference, obviously backed by research, backed by studies. Um, if I want that vision to come true, that it's a lifestyle, it's a choice, it's something, then probably the easiest way of teaching anyone is by experiential learning, hands-on techniques. Uh, Probably if we had YouTube while growing up, the cross section of the roots that we studied in botany would have been so much easier, xylem phloem. But we studied in a very traditional, but now that we see it in YouTube, it gets so much easier. It's like a bucket system going up on the well. It's as simple as that. Um, Yes, there's one thing that I have not spoken is about inclusivity. It's like, a lot of times I have heard about different structure of studies about fringe communities or like tribal communities or like urban students or rural students. Yes, have different criteria, different plan, but those are very, very equal stakeholders in everything. So inclusivity and diversity. Okay, I can't pronounce it. You get it.
Yeah.
And obviously, uh, let's aim to make some sustainable changes. If we are incorporating environment education, I hope it's not one of the environment education that we had, which was a compulsory subject which we had to pass. That's not something. It's a beautiful subject. It's really give you an insight why we are alive and what we need to do to have a decent life. So, I mean, it's quite a lot of demands I think I have, but I think,
No,
yeah, that's what I envision.
what you said was very beautiful and it makes a lot of sense because if you are not sure what you're aware about the education right now, it is the same setups in these schools. But when I see organizations working on education, not just in India, all over the world, what they are trying to do is trying to make a connect to nature, and the questions or the scenarios what we teach to the students about climate or environment, this is not what is global warming and then we explain it through examples or through going into the nature to understand about what is conservation, what is ecology, and what is environment. So I think the transition is already there, maybe outside the schools right now, but the uh, auxiliary organizations that are working in the fringe of, like, in the nexus of education and interactive learning. So they are also using games to incorporate into math education, which is a very dry subject. There are scenario based games for climate change to understand that if you take a flight, if you take a single car travel, if you take a carpool, what will the difference be? What difference will it make in your world in the next 5 years? So that sort of things have been developing, and that is a nice way that you said it. We do not just need the textbook thing because that is dry, it will not give a connection. But when we go out and teach our coming generations that this is not something to just keep in your mind and just put it in your papers during exams, but this is a way of life. We have to adapt. And slowly, perhaps the generation after next will have it in them, the thing that you're envisioning, that we will already have that connection, which I feel our many of the old world countries that have these rich cultural and traditional and indigenous heritages, they have those existing
Mm.
practices of sustainability already in place. With in like in India itself, there are these sacred groves that protect important plants, important species, and giving it a name of a god to save them. So that already exists. We need to, maybe we have forgotten that. We need to bring them back into our traditional methods of teaching and maybe the dissemination of the information. So with that, I would like to thank you, Shrimanti, for coming on today and giving this invaluable insights into the actual conservation practices that goes on within India. And thank you, Shrimanti. It was lovely talking to you, and then your ideas have given me a lot to think about, and also some practical steps that I can take towards things happening in and around us, where we can make a collaborative network to do something better for the environment while being, making ourselves more kinder towards the nature we live in. Thank you so much, Evanti.
Thank you so much. It was amazing, and I always love to increase my network, and I love to collaborate with you as well.
Thank
Thank you.
you.